Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel once again. If it's your first time here, my name's Peter and I talk about all things Thailand. Okay, we're on a bit of a marathon today, guys. I've been clearing out the folders, as it were. I'm kind of running low on stories again. I've got quite a lot of small, shorter stories that I've been holding back. Some of the stories I have to reject because they're too short. You can't really get into them, but these ones have kind of just about hit the mark. They're very, very short, but not too short, if that makes sense. And they're not all real short ones. Before we get into the stories, guys, I want to say a sincere thank you to all the viewers out there who have purchased my book from Amazon. As you know, I've had a book released just last week. It's on Kindle and paperback form. Now, I do realise that there's a lot of people out there who don't necessarily want to read the book, but they've bought it anyway. Why have they bought it? Because they're very kindly supporting me and my YouTube channel, and that's the reason why they've bought the book. I've also, I'm aware of several people that have actually gone ahead and not only purchased one book, but they've purchased the downloadable version. They've also purchased the paperback version. So if you're one of those people who have purchased my my first time book, thank you very much. I do appreciate it. Okay, so let's jump straight into these stories today. I'm sure you're going to enjoy these.
สวัสดีค่ะ
I have been in Thailand for almost 11 years and know every trick in the book. Just like most foreigners, my first year in Thailand was spent partying, and most of the money I made went towards that. After getting over the initial, let's say the honeymoon phase of living here, I went to work as a teacher as I didn't know what else to do as my online job had ended. Teaching was fun and the money was decent. I dated on and off and meeting girls online and so on. About 7 years ago, while playing around on a popular messaging app, I met a girl, let's call her Som. We spoke online a few times and arranged a date. We met at a hotel on Soi 11 in Bangkok and went to the hotel's rooftop bar. We had a great dinner and ended up drunk from all the wine we drank. We then ended up back at her hotel for the usual bedroom aerobics. In the morning, we had breakfast together and I walked her to her car. I was shocked to see a BMW there. She offered to drive me back home and I accepted. After dropping me off, the calls and messages started. We chatted and talked every day from that day on and met several times more. She would often come to my room for bedroom aerobics and then leave very fast afterwards. Calls after 9 PM were rare and she wouldn't answer her phone. This went on for some time until one day I received a strange message from another foreign guy on Facebook. He began to warn me about my so-called girlfriend. I guess she was still talking to this guy and she was maybe using me to get back at him as they had broken up. This was a truce, as he told me. She had mentioned me to him and he wanted to warn me. The story I heard was shocking. This guy went on to tell me that Som was married with 2 kids and that this is the reason he had broken up with her. As well as this, he said her husband was a member of the Thai mafia and that scared him as well. Som had told him he had a gun and often threatens her with it. This, of course, was why they broke up. The next day I confronted her with this and at first she denied it. Then I mentioned her ex-boyfriend had contacted me on Facebook and told me everything. I had heard stories about crazy Thai husbands, so I also did not want to have anything to do with her. After that, she kept calling me and texting me. She just wouldn't stop. She also came and knocked on my condo door a few times, but I pretended I wasn't home. This went on for almost a month until finally stopping. She told me that her Thai husband had many ladies and told her that if she left him, he would kill her. I didn't want any part of a relationship like this. Years later, I saw her on Facebook and saw she had moved to Australia and it seemed like she was living a new life. Now it's years later and I often wonder what happened to her. Just last week, I got a strange message from her on Facebook. She asked me if I could help her out with some money. I declined. First time she ever asked for money. I just told her I was back in Canada and didn't have a job. That was that. Hope you enjoyed the story. So there you go. That was a fairly short one as well. It doesn't surprise me, the BMW story, because a friend of mine who has a girlfriend in Thailand, he met online the same way, regular Thai girl. They came and picked me up for dinner one night, and she was in a 3 or a 5 Series BMW, little girl driving this BMW. And I said to my friend, I said, wow, you know, you've hit the jackpot here. But the other point to this story is, of course, yeah, I mean, you definitely shouldn't be messing about with married women in Thailand, because if you get found out, you're likely to leave Thailand in a body bag, and that's not why you went there, is it? Okay, let's jump straight into our next story. Okay, I've got to be honest with you guys. I've read out probably 300-400 stories on this channel over the last 3 or 4 years. This story I'm about to read you now is one of the best I've ever read out. It's funny, it's engaging, and I think you're going to like this a lot. So why waste time? Let's just get straight into it. I've been coming to Thailand mainly for golf trips with my friends and a few times alone on business since 2001. I have mainly spent time in Bangkok, but also a few times on Phuket and in Hua Hin. Pattaya was always a no-go for all of us, as some of the wives back home were very sceptical about the city and we could not justify a business trip to Pattaya. In 2007 or 2008, I think it was, 3 of us wanted to stay a few more days in Thailand when the rest of the guys went home. I put a lot of research in online to try and find a way to have a good time and do something different than just playing golf and staying in a good hotel in Bangkok. So of course Pattaya was on the cards. I was also aware that Pattaya had some great golf courses nearby. I found a hotel online that I think does not exist anymore, but maybe some of your viewers remember it. It was called the Penthouse in Pattaya and was opposite the Classroom Agogo Bar. Their website looked great at the time, and they even offered a special service from the airport in a converted minibus that had been turned into a party bus. What a journey, we thought. The hotel provided cold beers, ladies' drinks, and 3 beautiful girls to keep us company while travelling to Pattaya. Believe it or not, these girls could stand up and dance in the minibus and provided us with a nice massage on the way. Only in Thailand, as they say. Although the Penthouse Hotel was not a star-rated hotel, this journey was better than any trip we had made with a 5-star hotel car picked us up in the past. Remember, to date, the only interactions we had had with Thai girls were in Bangkok, and normally they worked in the bar of the hotel. So this was a very different experience, and these girls were obviously very different. To be honest, at the time, we were a little concerned as 1 or 2 of them didn't look like they were 18. But then again, the Thai people looked younger than their real age anyway, so we were not overly concerned. We were in our mid-40s and not interested in younger girls anyway. We later found out that a lot of the girls working in Pattaya come from rural Thailand in the north of the country, which is very poor in some areas. Although it was pleasant enough to watch these girls dance and take care of us, they didn't speak hardly a word of English between the 3 of them, and we were sitting in Bangkok traffic for a lot of the time. A little bit later into the journey, the driver shouted something to the girls, and each girl sat with one of us. I found out later on that the girl who sat with me was 25 years old. She told me that the other 2 girls were 21 and 22. Now, I must warn viewers, if they are eating food, they should turn down the volume for a while. After my girlfriend had been sitting with me and holding my hand for about 20 minutes, sipping on a lady's drink, she suddenly vomited all over herself and me. It was obvious that the girl suffered from car sickness, and I guess the drinking didn't help. Now, this situation went from bad to worse. You couldn't make this up again. The 2 younger girls smelt the vomit, and the both of them proceeded to vomit violently all over us and the van. So there we were, 3 middle-aged men with 3 young Thai girls, all 6 of us covered in vomit. What an awful smell. I nearly let go myself, and we still had 2 hours to go to get to Pattaya. We finally convinced the driver to stop. He was not the normal friendly Thai driver. He wanted to press on and get to Pattaya very quickly, but we demanded he stopped at a petrol station to clean up. Us guys and the 3 girls managed to clean ourselves up to a reasonable standard. At least some of the smell had disappeared. We continued our journey, but we insisted that the 3 girls sat on the other side of the bus and pointed their heads away from us. Being easygoing types, we just decided to have another beer, relax and try and enjoy the rest of the journey, but guess what? 30 minutes later, two of the girls told us they weren't feeling well again. The driver suddenly turned around, snapped at the girls again, raising his voice. Of course, we couldn't understand what he said to the girls, but all three of them suddenly stood up and started dancing again. We told the girls to sit down. We weren't interested in watching them dance again. What a nightmare this was turning out to be. The driver spoke some English. We told him to stop giving the girls orders because they were sick. I think he was worried he wouldn't get a decent tip from us if the girls didn't perform, so I gave him a 500 baht tip and told him to relax and that we were happy just to sit, drink and enjoy the scenery. We finally arrived into Pattaya and pulled up at the Penthouse Hotel. I knew it was not a completely normal hotel with its themed rooms etc, but I kind of kept that info to myself as my friends had no idea and I wanted to surprise them. It turned out to be much more special than I'd ever was aware of. My friends were shocked at this. It was all new to us all. You wouldn't believe what was in the rooms and what they were like. They were set up for one thing only. I can't be too descriptive because of YouTube. However, let's just say there were things provided lying around the room that you wouldn't want your mother to see. One thing I never managed to work out was there was talcum powder spread all over the bed and the room. One of the great mysteries of the universe, I guess. Anyway, it was now about 11 p.m. and we had booked a round of golf in the morning. So we decided to have a quick drink and have an early night so that we could hit the golf course refreshed early the next morning. As I explained earlier, you couldn't make things up. I'm only in my room for about 5 minutes when there's a knock at my door. Yep, you guessed it. It was a girl who sat with me in the minibus and she still had dried vomit on her clothes. Lovely. As tempting as this was, I declined her very kind offer, gave her a decent tip and said good night. This didn't work. She begged me to stay in my room for at least 15 minutes or so. She said her boss would have a problem with her if he thought I was unhappy. Broken English, but I got her point. I let her into the room. It was a strange atmosphere. We both sat there looking at each other for about 15 minutes. She then left with her tip and a smile. The Penthouse Hotel was not really our scene and we had paid for 3 nights, but we left after the first night and didn't request a refund. I actually ended up binning my trousers as they smelled so badly. Me and my friends are not really into drinking, girls and bars, so Pattaya did not appeal to us. Looking back, I think I judged Pattaya too harshly, as I'm sure most of the hotels are just regular hotels. I just chose the wrong one and got a bad first impression of the city. Later on, after we had finished playing golf, we were very happy to check into a normal regular hotel. It just goes to show you that sometimes you can spend extra money on things that you think are going to be fun, like that party minibus, but actually turn out to be a bad experience. We never blamed the girls for being sick. That was out of their control, and as said, we actually felt sorry for them. The driver was a bit of a bully, if truth be told. I'm sure that there are many professional girls that could have accompanied us in the minibus and made the journey fun, but for some reason, the hotel sent 3 new girls that had just arrived from Isan. I guess the hotel wanted to throw them in at the deep end, but it backfired on them. I sincerely hope that the girls managed to fit into the whole Pattaya bar scene and made money that they could send back to their families. That's it from me. Not the most pleasant of stories, but I thought it was worth sending as it's one of those only in Thailand stories. I tell you what guys, when I read that, I had to, English isn't his first language, so I had to kind of rejiggle it a little bit, rejiggle the words, but it's basically the same story and I was laughing, you know, I mean, it's such an awful situation to be in and like he quite rightly says, it only in Thailand, you know, there you are in a minibus on holiday with 3 lovely young girls sitting next to you, 1 vomits, the other 2 smell it, they vomit, you've got 2 hours to get to the hotel. I mean, as he said, you couldn't make it up, and I actually reading it out this time, I had to fight back to hold the smile inside, but I hope you guys enjoyed that as much as I did. Okay, let's carry on now. Now, the rest of these stories, they are all quite short. Like I say, I'm having a clear out, but they are interesting all the same. So let's get straight into these. This is story number 3. After watching an older video just now where a viewer was criticising Thai people as all being scammers, it has prompted me to tell you my story. I used to buy football shirts from a shop on the beach road in Pattaya regularly over a period of years. Then one time the lady asked me for 1,500 baht up front. Something to do with the police clamping down on shops selling fake goods. She wanted the money up front because she didn't want to order goods and then I didn't come back. I thought nothing of it. After a few days I went back to the shop. It was closed. No problem. A few more days went by. Still closed. Then again on a third visit, again closed. I wasn't too bothered as it wasn't a huge amount of money and I totally forgot all about it as I had to fly home anyway. A few years later I was walking along the beach road and a lady from a shop shouted to me. It was a football shirt seller with a new shop selling toys now. She said, "I owe you money." I told her, "Don't worry about it," but she insisted on giving it to me. I wanted to give her a hug but stopped myself as I thought it might be inappropriate from her side. Another seller who used to come around the bars was a really nice older man who sold embroidered type pictures. I brought a few smaller ones. I was a bit shocked on how expensive they were. Over the next few years I would always see him and he would stop for a chat. He never tried to sell me anything. I decided on a particular holiday to buy something from him, a bigger picture. I was taken aback by the price. Who buys these pictures at these prices, I thought? Not your average customer in a beer bar, that's for sure. 2,500 baht for a single picture. After a few days I saw him again. This time he had a picture I really liked, but I told him I didn't have that amount of money on me. He said, "Pay me next time and give me the picture." His English was perfect. I emphasised a few more times I might not see him and I wouldn't be back for 6 months, just in case there was something I lost in the translation. He understood clearly what I meant, but obviously trusted me. I had an idea. I took a photo of us both, so if I didn't see him before I flew home, I could leave the money with a cafe owner I used to go to regularly, along with a photo of the both of us. Every day I looked for him. Luckily enough, I spotted him walking past the bar. What must all the girls have thought when a Farang is running after a Thai man and then handing over 2,500 baht and getting nothing in return? Strange couple of stories, but they're both true. So, yeah, I mean, sometimes Thailand gets a bad rap as far as honesty goes, because obviously a lot of guys who go out there, particularly if they haven't been out there, they'll watch channels like mine and other people's channels, and people don't kind of emphasize all of the good points about Thailand. They tend to kind of home in on things like scams. And I've often wrote back to people who have written to me and said, look, you know, it happens all around the world. Don't think Thailand's any worse than anywhere else. And actually there's a lot more better points, a lot more positive points. So, you know, just go out there and have a good time. Right, a few more. We've got some more stories. I think there's 4 more, but again, they're another short one, okay? And this is number 4. For the last 10 years or so, I have spent the winter months in Pattaya. While I like eating in restaurants every night and then having a few beers in a go-go bar, I get my entertainment from freelance girls rather than from go-go bars which have expensive bar fines. A couple of years ago, I was regularly seeing 3 girls who were all friends. I was meeting them one at a time every 2 or 3 days as I wouldn't have had the time, stamina or imagination for anything more adventurous. After one session with a girl, we'll call her Nan, Nan said about one of the other girls, May, her boyfriend Boxer. I assumed that she meant the other girl had a boyfriend who was a Thai boxer. This made me slightly concerned as I didn't want to meet up with May for some afternoon fun and then find for some jealous Thai boxer using me for target practice, bang bang rather than boom boom. So I resolved not to meet May again. However, May messaged me a few times asking me to meet her and seemed increasingly desperate. So I agreed. But the next time I met May, who I assumed had a Thai boxer as a boyfriend, she had bruises on her face and a swollen lip. Then I realised that what Nan had tried to explain was her boyfriend boxed her. May's boyfriend had a habit of beating her up, boxing her, if she didn't come home with sufficient money. Happily, this was the only time I had a freelancer where the girl was so obviously exploited. With the many others I met, they were good company and seemed in control of their own lives. I always made sure I tipped them well for their services, just in case they were under pressure to provide for some local boyfriend who was allergic to working for a living while being partial to gambling and Thai whiskey. Right, straight into story number 5. I have a story that is a little bit different but shows a different side to most of the stories sent into your YouTube channel, Peter. My wife has a friend who comes from a rich family and is an officer at a bank, so has a very good job. This lady is very beautiful as well as intelligent. She is married to a Thai man and they have 2 children. When I met her and her husband, he was driving a taxi his wife had bought for him. I thought, okay, he's being responsible and working for his family. I return to the States periodically, so miss out on things happening sometimes. I returned to Thailand after being in the States once, and my wife told me that her friend's husband had been caught dealing drugs and was in prison. He served 4 years and was released. He came home and his wife accepted him back and he resumed driving his taxi. I thought, okay, maybe he has learned his lesson and will now be responsible for his family. But again, he was busted for selling drugs and I found out he was also a drug addict. He spent another 4 years in prison and was again released. He came home and his wife allowed him to come into the family home, but she refused to accept him back as a husband. She sold the taxi and he remains at home cooking and cleaning. The wife continues her career in the bank, but having come from a rich family, she also bought rental properties while she was young. She is a very intelligent, successful lady. In the evening, I have seen her running a food stall in our village, proving she is also not lazy and rather working than sitting home. I haven't seen her husband since he got out of prison the last time, but I'm told he is still living in their home. She told my wife she does not want another husband or even a boyfriend, as her marriage has soured against all men. It is a real shame, as not only is she very beautiful, but has a charming personality. She would be a real catch if someone were to be lucky enough to catch her. Her 2 children are grown up and attending college and are the pride and joy of her life. Just thought this would be an interesting story about a real Thai couple and show that even in Thai culture, not all relationships are a bed of roses. Okay, let's move straight into story number 6. I thought you might like my story of my first time in Thailand meeting my girlfriend. So my story starts last November. After a series of failed long-term Western relationships, I had decided to try dating on ThaiCupid. All throughout the lockdowns, I had watched YouTube videos on Thailand and had become obsessed with the country, people and culture. I was amazed at how many attractive Thai girls were liking my profile and wanting to talk to me. I'm a 41-year-old guy with a little extra weight, but not too bad in the looks department if I do say so myself. All the girls I talked to seemed really nice, but this one totally stunning 28-year-old girl just really stood out. We hit it off really well and we started messaging every day. Fast forward to spring this year and I decided I had to go out to meet her. It would be my first trip to Thailand and my first trip alone. I wasn't nervous, just excited, and I was on a mission to meet this gorgeous exotic girl. Arriving in Bangkok instantly gave me this hit of excitement. So much going on, really busy and totally unlike anywhere I've been before. I felt alive. After a couple of days in Bangkok on my own, we arranged to meet. Our first few dates were with her and a friend who acted as a chaperone. I had learned from the videos I had watched about traditional Thai girls being very conservative. No public displays of affection and so on. It made the first few dates very awkward and I really didn't know where our relationship was heading. After the first week and a bit of seeing each other most days and still with no affection, I came to the conclusion that we might just end up being really good friends. She was stunning, the most beautiful girl I'd ever seen, and so I also didn't feel worthy, which knocked my confidence a little. To cheer myself up, I decided one night to go out to Soy Cowboy. As an obvious new kid on the block, I quickly got swamped by all these amazing bar girls. I ended up in a smallish go-go bar with the girls on stage. They brought this girl to my table and she quickly gave me all the hugs and attention I had been craving all week. I got greedy and asked for one more girl to join my table. I was loving life, the attention, and I happily got taken advantage of that night. They loved me so much in there that I managed to get lots of photos in the bar, partly because I brought the mama-san lots of ladies' drinks, but I would like to think that they liked the look of me as well. Soon I was taking them back to my hotel and had my first amazing night with two stunning girls who I have to add were incredibly clean and safe. I woke up the next morning with a huge smile on my face, even though I was down 10,000 baht. That's about 250 UK pounds, 300 US dollars. The same day I got a message from my girlfriend saying to meet her in the hotel lobby. She was on her own. Our first real alone time together, and we travelled down to Rayong for her work. We both had an amazing time, so much so that I got a tiny bit of affection from her by way of a slap on the knee. It was a start, I suppose. For the next couple of weeks, we got closer. She did everything for me, from de-shelling my prawns to clipping my toenails. One time, she even introduced me to her parents, who are incredibly religious, and made the trip down from a small farming village near the city of Chiang Rai in the north of the country. I know how important I must mean to her for her to introduce me to her parents. I felt really guilty about that night in Soy Cowboy, but now that I've fallen totally in love with this girl, I know that this would have been my only chance to have had such an experience in Bangkok. As my last remaining days in Thailand come to an end, we became so close. She got me to stay in her condo for the last 4 nights, and wow, the best 4 days of my life. I felt so lucky and so loved, and for the first time she told me that she loved me. The short time that I had spent in Thailand was life-changing. I was exposed to this new world of amazing people, food and culture. I've met my amazing girlfriend, who hopefully I'll spend the rest of my life with. And I have a lot of incriminating photos that sadly I have to delete. So there you go. I hope that works out for the guy. It was his first time to Thailand, and obviously he's met the girl of his dreams. Okay, so as I said, a real marathon there. Okay, I'm going to be an e-beggar today, guys. You know the e-beggars, everybody hates the e-beggars, but I'm not going to beg for money. What I am going to beg you for is some more stories, because I am running short. I've got some I can get by, but you know, I don't like to run too low. So once again, if you are sitting on a story, please send it in to me. And it doesn't have to be a crash and burn story or a relationship story even. Just anything that's happened to you that was a bit crazy or weird in Thailand. I'd love to read it out for my viewers. Okay, guys, that's it as always. I'm going to slip in a small advert about my book again, just try and push that. But as always, I'll be back on Friday for the live stream, 9 PM UK time. We had a really good one last Friday, over 400 in. It'd be great if you guys could join me. And if you're not into the live streams, as I always say, I'll be back with some more stories next Saturday. So until then, take care and thanks for watching me again. My new book is finally out. I've got it here in my hand. It's available on paperback and Kindle version. Now, although it's called a Kindle version, you can actually download it to any PC or desktop, laptop, that sort of thing, and you can read it straight off whatever you're using. If you prefer the paperback version, as I said, that is now out. I've just received a copy here. There's 30 stories inside. It's retailing at the moment. It's retailing at $4.99 for the downloadable version and $9.99 for the paperback copy. Now there might be some postage on top of that as well. So hopefully you guys will either download it or buy it. It's on Amazon, as I said. I'll stick a link in the description, and yeah, thank you in advance if you do buy it.